I didn't mean to stop there. That's the part I keep repeating to myself, as if intention could somehow separate me from what followed. As if not meaning to makes it less real. It was past 10 p.m. when the road began to thin into something less certain. The asphalt, once smooth and obedient, cracked into long black veins. My headlights seemed to hesitate before reaching the edges, as if the darkness ahead had weight like it resisted being seen. I had been driving for hours. Too many hours. The kind where your mind slips between memories you didn't invite and thoughts that don't feel like your own. I remember glancing at the GPS no signal. The screen flickered, then went blank, leaving me alone with the quiet hum of the engine and the hollow stretch of road. I should have turned back. Instead, I kept going. There was something about the silence. Not peaceful, no, not that. It was a silence that felt occupied, like walking into a room where people had just stopped talking. I rolled the window down, hoping the cold air might clear my head. It didn't. The air smelled wrong. Not like earth or rain or even dust. It had a stale metallic edge to it, like old coins pressed against your tongue. Beneath that, something faint and sour lingered, something that reminded me of forgotten places. Abandoned buildings. Closed hospitals. I almost missed the sign. It stood crooked at the side of the road, half swallowed by darkness. My headlights brushed over it for just a second, just long enough for the words to register. No vacancy below it in smaller, fading letters. Open first load instinctively. There was no building in sight, just the sign. For a moment, I thought I had imagined it. Fatigue does that, fills in things that aren't there, stretches shadows into shapes. But then, as I rolled forward, something shifted. The road curved slightly to the right, and suddenly there it was, the hotel. It hadn't been there a second ago. I'm certain of that. The structure rose out of the darkness like it had been waiting just beyond sight. Not grand, not modern, just old. 3 stories, maybe 4, its exterior a dull gray that absorbed the light rather than reflecting it. The windows were dark, but not empty. I had the distinct, uncomfortable feeling that they were watching back. I pulled into the gravel lot without thinking. The crunch beneath my tires sounded too loud, too deliberate, echoing in a way that didn't match the size of the space. The parking lot was empty, no other cars, no signs of life. Just the hotel standing there like it had always been. Or like it had been placed there just for me. I turned off the engine. The silence returned immediately. It pressed in from all sides. I sat there for a while, hands still on the steering wheel, staring at the building. My instincts told me to leave. Every part of me whispered the same thing: this place is wrong. But exhaustion has a way of dulling fear. Or maybe it just makes you careless. I grabbed my bag and stepped out. The air felt colder than it should have. Not the sharp cold of night, but something heavier, like the temperature had dropped only around the hotel. My breath came out in faint, uneven clouds. As I approached the entrance, I noticed something strange. There were no lights outside. No flickering sign, no buzzing bulbs, nothing. And yet I could see clearly. The building was illuminated by a soft, unnatural glow that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. It didn't cast shadows properly. My own shadow stretched behind me, then shifted slightly to the side without my movement. I stopped, looked down. It moved again. Just a fraction. I told myself it was the angle. The light. My eyes adjusting. I didn't look at it again. The front doors were already open. Not wide, just enough. Like someone had been expecting me. Inside, the air was warmer, but no less strange. The smell hit me immediately: dust, old fabric, and something faintly sweet like decaying flowers. The lobby was dimly lit by a chandelier that hung too low from the ceiling, its crystals dull and uneven. The floor creaked beneath my steps. No, not creaked. It responded. Each step felt acknowledged, as if the building knew where I was. The front desk stood directly ahead. Behind it, a man waited. I hadn't seen him when I first walked in. He was just there now. He looked ordinary at first glance. Middle-aged, thin, dressed in a dark suit that seemed slightly outdated. His hair was combed too neatly, his posture too rigid. But it was his face that unsettled me. Not because it was frightening, because it wasn't. It was his expression didn't quite match his eyes. His mouth curved into a polite smile, but his eyes remained still and blinking, unfocused, like painted glass. "Good evening," he said. His voice was smooth, too smooth. It slid into the room without resistance, without echo, as if the air itself made space for it. Do you have any rooms available?" I asked, though the sign outside answered that already. He nodded slowly. Just that. No hesitation, no checking, no reaching for a ledger or computer. "I'll take one," I said before I could think better of it. He slid a key across the desk. Not a card. A key. Old-fashioned, heavy, with a tarnished brass tag attached. Room 12. "Second floor," he said. I noticed then that there were no other keys behind him. No hooks, no board. Just empty space. "Are there other guests?" I asked. The question slipped out before I could stop it. For a moment, his smile didn't change. Then something shifted. Not in his expression, but in the idea of it. Like my mind suddenly realized it had been interpreting the smile incorrectly. "There are always guests," he said. A pause. Then, softer, "Some stay longer than others." I swallowed. I took the key. His fingers brushed mine for just a second. They were cold, not just cold wrong, like touching something that had never been warm. I pulled my hand back quickly. "Enjoy your stay," he said. The words sounded practiced, rehearsed, like they had been said many times before, but not recently. I turned toward the staircase. As I climbed, the steps groaned beneath me, not from age, but from pressure, like something beneath them was shifting in response to my weight. Halfway up, I paused. I don't know why. Just something told me to look back. The man was still there, exactly where I had left him, watching me, unblinking. I forced myself to keep going. The hallway on the second floor stretched longer than it should have. I'm sure of that. From the outside, the building didn't seem large enough to contain such a space. The corridor extended into darkness, lined with identical doors on either side. The wallpaper peeled in thin strips, revealing something darker underneath, not plaster, not wood. Something else. I didn't look too closely. Room 12 was near the middle. At least I think it was the middle. It felt like the middle. I unlocked the door. The room inside was... that was the strangest part. A bed, a dresser, a small table with a lamp. Everything looked ordinary, untouched by the unease that filled the rest of the hotel. For a moment I felt relief. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe this was just an old place, poorly maintained, with a strange atmosphere. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me. The click of the lock echoed louder than it should have. I set my bag down and sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress dipped slightly beneath my weight. Too slightly. Like it had already been compressed. Like someone had just been sitting there moments before. Slowly, I placed my hand on the other side of the bed. It was warm, and that's when I first heard it. A soft sound. From the wall beside me. Not a knock, not scratching. Something quieter, closer, like breathing. And somewhere far below, the man at the desk whispered something I couldn't quite hear. But I knew he wasn't speaking to me. I kept my hand on the mattress for longer than I want to admit. It was warm. Not the room is warm. Not sunlight hit this spot earlier warm. It was body heat, fresh, lingering, specific, like someone had been sitting there no more than a minute before I walked in. I stood up so fast the bed frame gave a short metallic groan. The sound seemed to travel into the walls instead of the room, as if the hotel itself had heard me move. "Hello?" I said. My voice came out thin. No answer. I looked around the room more carefully this time. The lamp on the bedside table cast a weak amber circle over the bedspread and part of the wall, leaving the corners in shadow. The curtains were drawn over the window, thick and old-fashioned, their fabric dark red and heavy with dust. There was a narrow wardrobe near the door, a wash basin with a cracked mirror above it, and a chair in the far corner with a shallow dent in the cushion. That dent bothered me immediately. It wasn't age. It looked recent, like pressure had just been lifted from it. I stared at it, waiting for my eyes to adjust, waiting for the shape to become something harmless. It didn't. A cold ribbon of sweat slid down my back. Again, I heard that sound from the wall. Breathing. Slow. Measured. Someone on the other side of the room's left wall, inhaling gently through the nose, exhaling through parted lips. So close it felt less like hearing and more like standing near a sleeper in the dark. I stepped toward the wall. The wallpaper was faded cream, patterned with tiny gold flowers gone brown with time. In the lamplight, I could see ripples under it as if the plaster beneath had bubbled or shifted. I pressed my ear against it. Nothing. Then, just as I started to pull away a soft inhale, directly against my ear from the other side, I jerked back so hard I nearly stumbled over my own bag. "No," I whispered, though I didn't know what I was denying. Maybe the sound. Maybe what it implied. Maybe the simple fact that I was alone in a hotel with no other cars outside, no noise from neighboring rooms, no signs that anyone but the desk clerk even existed, and yet someone was breathing inches away from me through the wall. I went to the door and opened it. The hallway was empty. Still too long.
Still too dim.
The wallpaper outside matched the wallpaper inside, but the pattern seemed darker here, the flowers more withered, the stems more like veins. A single bulb at the far end flickered, though it gave off no audible buzz. The air in the corridor felt cooler than the room, and there was a smell I hadn't noticed before, damp carpet and something old beneath it, something medicinal and sour. I looked left, then right. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. No distant television behind closed doors. No elevator chime, no ice machine humming. None of the tiny noises hotels are supposed to make. Just the silence. Dense and padded. Almost expectant. I stepped out into the hallway and pulled the door nearly closed behind me, as if the room itself had become untrustworthy.
Hello?
I called again, louder this time. The sound went down the hall and disappeared.
No hecho.
That was what frightened me most. Long hallway, bare walls, high ceiling, and my voice died instantly like the air swallowed it. I moved to the adjacent door and looked at the brass number. 11.
I listened. Nothing.
I knocked once. The sound it made was wrong too. Not the hollow knock of wood over empty space, but a dull, padded thud, as if I were knocking on something soft hidden just beneath the door. No answer. I tried room 13. Same result. I kept going, knocking at random. 15.
16.18.
Every door gave that same muffled response, like there were no rooms beyond them at all. By the time I stopped, I realized something that sent a sharp pulse of fear through my chest. There was no room 14. Not missing between 13 and 15 in the casual, superstitious way some hotels do it.
No.
The numbering made no sense. 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16. Then farther down the hall, 12 again. I stood looking at that second 12 for a long time. The brass numbers were tarnished but clear. 12. My room was behind me, halfway down the corridor. And yet here was another room 12 at the far end. I actually laughed once, just a breath, not from humor but from the mind's last, desperate effort to stay normal. "Okay," I said softly to myself. "I'm tired." That explanation no longer comforted me. I walked toward the second room 12 anyway. The carpet muffled my steps so completely that after a few paces I had the bizarre sensation of gliding rather than walking. The hallway lights dimmed slightly as I moved, not all at once but in sequence, as if they were letting me pass rather than lighting the way. The second room 12 stood at the end of the hall beside a narrow window. Up close, the door looked older than the others. The wood was darker, scarred around the lock, and the brass knob had been polished by many hands. The key in my palm suddenly felt heavier. I hadn't realized I was still holding it. Slowly, I lifted it toward the lock. It fit. My stomach turned. I didn't insert it. I just stood there with the tip of the key touching metal, knowing with a cold certainty that if I opened this door, I would not find another ordinary room. Something moved in the window beside me. A reflection. I looked up. For one broken second, I thought someone was standing at the other end of the hallway. Tall, thin, head slightly bowed. Then the flickering bulb steadied and there was nothing there. I spun around anyway. Empty corridor. My own room door still visible far behind me, except it looked farther away now than it had any right to. The hall between us seemed stretched, deeper, like looking down a tunnel in a dream where distance refuses to stay fixed. A floorboard creaked behind the second room 12. Not in the hall. Inside it. I backed away at once. The breathing started again. This time not through a wall. This time from the door in front of me. A slow inhale from the crack beneath it. Then a soft exhale, warm enough that I saw the faint movement of dust on the carpet.
I ran.
There's no dignity in terror, no measured decision-making, no carefully gathered logic. I ran because every animal instinct in my body had suddenly taken over. I ran back down that long corridor, heart slamming against my ribs, key cutting into my palm, the darkness at the edges of the hall seeming to bend inward as I passed. I reached my room, fumbled with the lock, threw myself inside, and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Then I locked it. Then I dragged the chair under the knob. Then the dresser in front of the chair. Then I stood there panting, staring at the door as if it might start breathing too. For a while, nothing happened. I could hear only my own pulse. Then, gradually, I became aware of another sound, a faint crackling. The lamp. Its light had dimmed to a sullen orange. I looked at it, and as I did, the bulb brightened slightly as though noticing it had been observed. That was when I saw the notebook on the bedside table. I am absolutely certain it hadn't been there before. A small black book, cloth-bound, with no title on the front. Its edges were frayed, and a dark stain spread across one corner of the cover. It sat in the center of the table, perfectly aligned beside the lamp. I approached slowly. The room seemed smaller now.
The shadows.
Even the ceiling felt lower, pressing down. I opened the notebook. Inside, the pages were filled in with cramped handwriting names, dates, room numbers. Some entries were brief, others just a line or two. The ink changed from page to page, as if written by different hands over many years. I turned to the last completed entry. The date had no year, just October 14th. The handwriting was hurried, shaky. I asked the man at the desk why the hotel doesn't appear on any road sign except the one outside. He told me roads forget things that do not wish to be found. Below that, I made the mistake of checking the window after 11. And below that, written in darker, harder strokes that had dug into the page, do not let them know you can hear them inside the walls. My mouth went dry. I flipped backward through the pages. Room 8 has no mirror after midnight. The woman in the elevator is missing her eyes. Don't mention it. If you hear your own voice in the hall, stay inside. There is no checkout bell. Do not ring for assistance. Then, near the middle of the book, one sentence underlined 3 times. Whatever knocks after 11:47 p.m. is not asking to come in. It is asking whether you are still there. I checked my phone. No service. 11:32 p.m. I stared at the digits, feeling each minute suddenly become a physical thing. 28 minutes to midnight. The curtains stirred. There was no breeze. I turned toward the window slowly. The heavy red fabric moved once, as if something behind it had brushed the glass from outside. My room was on the 2nd floor. I told myself it could be a branch. Though I had seen no trees near the building, another soft brush. Then a firmer one, like fingertips dragging downward. I crossed the room and stopped a foot from the curtains. Every nerve in my body screamed at me not to touch them. The notebook's warning pulsed in my mind. I made the mistake of checking the window after 11. It was after 11 now. 11:34 a.m. I stepped back. A knock came at the door. 3 gentle taps, not loud, not aggressive, polite. The chair under the handle stood unmoving. The dresser blocked half the door. No shadow appeared beneath it. Then the clerk's voice, smooth and quiet, came through the wood.
Sir,
There has been a small error.
I couldn't answer.
You have been given the wrong room. His tone remained calm, but underneath it was something else, an almost imperceptible strain, as though he were speaking through clenched teeth. Please open the door. My hands had started shaking. No, absolutely not. I stared at the barrier I'd made, breathing through my mouth. The clerk knocked again, still gentle. I apologized for the inconvenience. Then, after a pause, room 12 is already occupied. The lamp went out. Darkness dropped over the room like a curtain. At once the window gave a violent rattle, as if something had struck it from outside with both hands. I stumbled backward and hit the bed. The knock came again, not from the door this time, but from inside the wall beside the bed. 3 taps, same rhythm from within the room itself. Then from the ceiling. Then beneath the floorboards. A chorus of patient, exploratory knocking all around me. My phone screen lit my face in pale blue as I backed toward the center of the room, turning in circles, trying to track the sounds. The clerk spoke again from the hall, and somehow his voice was now very close to the keyhole. You should not have read the guest book. The notebook slipped from my numb fingers and hit the floor. At that exact moment, someone whispered from under the bed, "Don't let him in." I stopped breathing. The darkness around the bed deepened, gathering into a black shape beneath the frame. A hand slid out, not reaching, just resting there in the open. Polly. Human, and wearing a hotel key tied to a brass tag. 12. I couldn't move. Not because I was frozen in fear, though I was, but because something deeper, more primitive had taken hold of me. The kind of stillness animals use when a predator is near. The kind that says, if you move, you will be seen. The hand under the bed didn't twitch. It just lay there, palm down, fingers slightly curled, as if waiting. The brass tag caught what little light bled from my phone screen. The number 12 gleamed faintly, dull and old. I forced myself to breathe again, shallow and slow. The whisper came again from beneath the bed, softer this time, almost urgent. Don't let him in. A different voice than the clerk's. Not smooth, not controlled. This one trembled, cracked at the edges like something stretched too long. Human. That made it worse, because it meant someone else had been here. Who are you? I whispered. Silence. Then, after a moment, the voice seemed to struggle with the word, like speaking itself was painful. The knocking continued around the room, now slower, more deliberate. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. From the wall. From the ceiling. From beneath the floor. Like something mapping the boundaries of the space. Testing them. The clerk's voice came again from the door. Closer than before. You are not authorized to remain in this room. The handle shifted. Not enough to open, but enough to remind me that the only thing between me and whatever was outside was a chair and a dresser. I will correct the error. The door trembled. Once. Harder this time. Dust fell from the top frame in a thin gray line. The hand under the bed twitched. Just once. Then it slowly, not quickly, not in panic, deliberately, as if retreating, as if making space.
No, I will.
Wait. Too late. The hand disappeared into the darkness, and the darkness under the bed deepened. Not shadow.
Something else.
Something that absorbed even the faint glow of my phone. I staggered backward, putting the bed between myself and that opening. The knocking stopped, all at once. The silence that followed was worse, because it wasn't empty. It was full. Like something had just taken a breath and was holding it. Then a sound from the hallway. Footsteps, but not from one person.
Many.
Soft, moving slowly down the corridor, toward my door. My pulse hammered in my ears. The clerk spoke again, but now his voice sounded strained, thinner, like whatever calm mask he wore was starting to slip. You have disrupted the arrangement. The door shook violently this time. The chair scraped. The dresser shifted half an inch. You were not meant to read it. The footsteps outside grew louder, closer. I could hear them now, skin against carpet, faint dragging, uneven pacing. And something else. Whispers. Low. Overlapping. Too many voices to separate. You must relocate. The knob turned. Slowly. Against resistance. The wood of the door groaned. The frame creaked. The chair legs lifted slightly off the ground with each push, then slammed back down. I backed into the far wall. My eyes flicked to the window. The curtain still drawn, still moving slightly, as if something outside was... The notebook lay on the floor between me and the bed. A thought surfaced through the panic. The entries.
Warnings.
Patterns. Rules. My hands shook as I dropped to my knees and grabbed it. Flipped pages blindly. Scanning. If you hear your own voice in the hall, stay inside. There is no checkout bell. Do not respond when they speak your name.
My name. My breath caught.
The clerk hadn't said my name yet.
Not yet. I kept flipping.
Do not open the door after the second knock. Too late. The third knock came now. Louder than before. Not polite. Demanding. The door bowed inward. Wood splintered slightly near the latch. A crack formed. And through that crack something moved. Just thicker than the darkness in the room. Pressing.
Watching.
The footsteps outside stopped.
Right outside the door.
The whispers stopped too, all at once. A heavy stillness settled. Then a new voice. From the hallway.
My voice. Perfect.
Exact. "Hey," it said softly. "It's okay. You can open the door." My stomach dropped. "No," I whispered. "Come on," my voice continued, calm and reassuring. "You're overreacting. There's nothing out here." The door handle turned again. Harder. "Just open it." I pressed myself against the wall, shaking my head, even though no one could see me. I said no. A pause. Then laughter. But it wasn't mine anymore. It stretched too long, warped at the edges. The clerk's voice cut through it sharply. "Enough." The laughter stopped instantly. The pressure on the door increased. The dresser slid another inch. The chair cracked under strain. "You will vacate the room," the clerk said, now with a low, vibrating intensity that made the walls hum faintly. "Or you will be removed." The bed creaked behind me. I turned slowly. The darkness beneath it had spread. Not across the floor. Up. Like smoke reversing. Climbing the sides of the mattress. Forming a shape. A torso. A head. Something was rising from under the bed. My lungs refused to work. The shape solidified gradually, pulling itself together from that impossible blackness.
A figure. Human shape.
Too thin. Too long. Its skin, if it was skin, looked stretched and gray, like something preserved but not properly. Its limbs bent at slightly wrong angles, joints just a little too loose. And its face, there wasn't one. Not fully. Features were there, but not aligned. Eyes slightly too far apart. Mouth slightly too low. Like a memory of a face rather than a real one. It looked at me, or something close enough. Then it spoke. The voice was layered. Multiple tones overlapping.
Don't.
The door cracked further. Wood splintered. A sliver of the hallway became visible. I saw movement there. Many shapes. Standing.
Waiting.
The figure in the room stepped forward, placing itself between me and the door. Or possessive. I couldn't tell. "You read it," the figure said. Not a question. "You know now." The clerk's voice sharpened. "That is not yours." The figure tilted its head.
He came in.
A pause.
He is in this room.
The air grew colder. My breath fogged. The thing at the door pushed harder. The barrier buckled. The figure in front of me straightened, its limbs elongating slightly, stretching.
Mine now.
The words sank into the room like weight. The whispers outside surged again. Faster. More urgent. The clerk's voice rose over them. "Room 12 is already occupied." The figure turned its head toward the door. Slowly. Deliberately. Then back to me. It extended a hand. Long fingers. Too many joints.
Waiting.
Behind it, the door began to give. The wood split. The chair snapped. The dresser shifted violently.
I had said.
Maybe less. 2 choices. Or open. The notebook slipped from my hand again. It landed open.
1 page.
1 line. Different handwriting. Messier than the rest. Desperate. Midnight resets the rooms. I looked at my phone. 11:58 a.m. 2 minutes. The figure's hand remained extended. The door cracked wider. A thin black gap forming. Something pressed against it from outside. Something that didn't fit. The whispers turned into something closer to hunger. The clerk spoke one last time. Cold.
Certain.
"If you remain when the hour changes." A pause. "You will not be the same guest." The figure in front of me leaned closer. Its face shifting. Almost forming. "You will not leave." 11:59 a.m. The room pulsed. The walls seemed to breathe. The light flickered back on for a split second, and in that flash I saw something impossible. Dozens of faint shapes layered into the walls. Faces, pressing outward.
Watching. Waiting.
The second ticked forward. The air grew heavy. Thick. Like time itself was slowing. The figure's hand was inches from mine. The door was seconds from breaking. and somewhere deep in the building something massive shifted. As if the entire hotel had just turned its attention toward room 12.
12 p.m. I didn't hear the clock change.
I felt it. The moment didn't pass like time usually does. It folded, bent inward. For one impossible instant, everything in the room seemed to occupy the same second past, present, something else layered between. The light burst on. Not gradually, all at once.
White, harsh.
Clinical. The figure in front of me froze. The door stopped moving. The whispers outside snapped into silence like a cut wire. And the entire hotel, a long, low sound rolled through the walls, not wind, not machinery. Something deeper, something alive. Then everything changed. The pressure in the room vanished instantly, like stepping out of deep water. The air warmed. The shadows retreated. The walls smoothed themselves, not visibly, but in the way your mind suddenly realizes something is no longer wrong. The door stood intact. No cracks. No splinters. The chair and dresser were back where they had been when I first moved them. The window curtains hung still. The lamp glowed softly. I looked at the space where the figure had stood. Nothing. No trace. No mark. No memory of shape except in my own mind. The notebook lay on the floor, closed now. I picked it up slowly. It felt lighter. When I opened it, every page was blank. Every entry gone. My breath hitched. I turned toward the door. Silence. Normal silence. The kind that belongs in buildings. The distant hum of something electrical. A faint creak of settling wood. Nothing else. I stepped forward. My legs felt weak, like I had been running for hours. I removed the dresser, moved the chair. My hand hovered over the handle. For a moment I hesitated, because part of me, some deep, instinctive part, understood something I hadn't fully processed yet. That whatever had just happened hadn't ended. It had only... Still, I opened the door. The hallway was different.
Sure.
Clearly so. The far end was visible now, just a few doors down. Warm yellow light replaced the dim, uneven glow from before. The wallpaper looked old but ordinary. Faded, not rotten. The doors were numbered correct. I stared at that number, for it hadn't existed before. Now it did. I stepped out slowly. The carpet felt normal beneath my feet. Too normal. Like something trying too hard to convince me. I walked down the hall. No stretching, no shifting, no duplicate doors. Just a corridor. At the end, a staircase. I descended, each step solid, each sound behaving the way it should. The lobby waited below, bright, quiet, empty. The chandelier shone clearly now, its crystals reflecting light properly. The smell was gone, no dust, no decay. Just the faint scent of cleaning solution. The front desk stood still. No clerk, no keyboard, no sign of anyone.
I approached it cautiously.
The surface was clean. Too clean. As if it had been wiped moments ago. My key was still in my hand.
I placed it on the desk.
It made a soft, ordinary sound. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a bell appeared. I hadn't seen it before. A small silver bell, polished, sitting neatly at the center of the desk. My chest tightened. One of the entries. There is no checkout bell. Do not ring for assistance. But the book was blank now. No proof, no rules, just memory. And the overwhelming, irrational feeling that if I walked away without doing something, anything, I might not be allowed to leave at all. So I did the worst possible thing. I rang it. The sound was sharp, clear, and for a second, nothing. Then, behind me, checking out, the voice was normal, friendly. I turned. A different man stood there. Not the clerk. Younger, broader, wearing a clean uniform, smiling in a way that reached his eyes.
Sorry, he said.
Didn't see you come in. I stared at him.
Where's the other guy?
He frowned slightly.
What other guy?
The man at the desk. He glanced at the counter, then back at me. There hasn't been anyone here tonight but me. A pause.
You okay?
I didn't answer. Instead, I looked past him toward the front doors. They were closed. But through the glass, I saw the parking lot. Empty, except for my car. And beyond that, nothing. No road. No trees. Just darkness. A vast, flat darkness stretching out in every direction. My throat tightened. I asked. The man chuckled lightly. "On the highway, sir." "Same as always." He stepped closer. "You must be tired. Happens to people passing through." Passing through. The phrase echoed in my head. I looked back at the desk. The key was gone.
The bell was gone.
The surface was empty. The man tilted his head. "Did you stay in room 12? The question hit me like a physical blow.
His smile didn't fade.
But something behind it did. Just for a second.
Something...
He said quietly. "That one's been popular lately." My pulse stuttered.
What do you mean?
He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped around me and moved behind the desk. His movements were smooth, practiced. Too practiced. He leaned down slightly as if checking something beneath the counter. Then he straightened, holding something. A book, black, cloth-bound.
My breath stopped.
He placed it gently on the desk, opened it. This time, the pages weren't blank. They were filled. I stepped closer without realizing it. He flipped to the last page. The ink was still wet. The handwriting mine. October 14th, I stayed in a hotel that doesn't exist on maps until midnight. Below it, another line. I thought I left. My vision blurred.
No, I would...
That's not. He looked up at me, and for a moment, just a moment, his eyes didn't reflect the light. They absorbed it, flat, unblinking.
Familiar.
"There are always guests," he said softly. The exact same words, the exact same tone. The smile stretched slightly. Too far. Some stay longer than others. The lights flickered. The lobby dimmed. The air shifted. And suddenly the smell was back. Dust. Decay. Something sweet beneath it. The chandelier above swayed gently, though no wind moved. I turned toward the doors. They were open now. I was sure they hadn't been. Beyond them a road. Faint, cracked, waiting. The man's voice came again. "Drive safe." I didn't argue, didn't question. I walked, step by step, out of the lobby, across the gravel, into my car. I didn't look back, not once. The engine started. The headlights cut through the dark. The road stretched ahead. I drove, for minutes, for hours. I don't know. Eventually, the GPS flickered back to life. Signal restored. Road names appeared.
Normal.
Everything normal. I kept driving. Didn't stop until I saw another town. Lights. People.
Noise.
I checked into a different hotel. A real one. I stayed there the night. Didn't sleep. At dawn, I left. And I told myself it was over. That I had escaped. That whatever that place was, it had let me go. But tonight I checked my phone. Scrolled through my photos. And found one I don't remember taking. A picture of a road. Cracked. Empty. A crooked sign at the side. No vacancy below it. Open, and in the reflection of the screen behind me, just for a second I saw a hallway. Too long. And a door. Numbered 12.